He couldn't stand near train platforms, not because he disliked trains, because part of him wanted to jump. This isn't the story of a confident bulldog born great. This is a boy nobody wanted, who fought his own mind. He was born 2 months early, in a lady's cloakroom, during a party, at a palace not his family's own. His father was a rising politician who found him tiresome. His American mother was dazzling, glamorous, and rarely home. The person who actually raised him was his nanny, a plain, devoted woman named Mrs. Everest. He kept her photograph on his nightstand for the rest of his life, 70 years after she died. He wrote to his father almost weekly, begging for a visit. Most letters went completely unanswered. When his father did write back, the letters were cold, calling him lazy and unremarkable. At school, other boys called him stupid. He had a speech impediment and couldn't pronounce the letter S. He practiced alone for hours, repeating words until his mouth finally obeyed him. Nobody was there to hear it. His grades were so poor, he was placed in the lowest class in the entire school. But in one subject, he was strangely brilliant: English. He could already write with real power. He failed the military academy entrance exam twice. On his third try, he barely scraped through. He found the one place school couldn't touch him: the battlefield. He chased medals like approval. In Cuba, observing another country's war as a young officer, he discovered his lifelong love of cigars. He rode in one of history's last great cavalry charges, in the deserts of Sudan, at 23. In South Africa, reporting on a war as a journalist, his armored train was ambushed and captured. He was thrown into an enemy prison camp. Told release was unlikely, he refused to simply wait. In the dead of night, alone, he climbed the tall prison wall and disappeared into darkness. With no map and a price on his head, he walked nearly 300 miles toward freedom. He jumped onto freight trains in the dark, trusting strangers with his life at every stop. For days, he hid inside a coal mine, trusting a stranger who could have turned him in. When he finally reached British territory, he wasn't just free. He was suddenly, unexpectedly famous. At 25, riding that fame, he ran for Parliament and won his very first seat. Within 4 years, he crossed the floor of Parliament and joined the opposing political party entirely. His former friends called him a traitor. He said principle mattered more than loyalty to any team. By his mid-30s, he ran the Royal Navy itself, one of the most powerful jobs in Britain. At a dinner party that year, he met a sharp-eyed woman named Clementine and went speechless. He proposed in a rose garden after knowing her only 4 months. She said yes immediately. For the next 57 years, they wrote each other letters nearly every single day apart. When World War I began, he proposed a bold naval strike to end the war fast. His own experts warned him it was too risky. He pushed forward anyway, certain boldness would win. It failed catastrophically. Tens of thousands of lives were lost on the beaches of Gallipoli. The public needed someone to blame. Overnight, he went from rising star to national disgrace. He resigned in humiliation, then did the unthinkable. Enlisted to fight in the trenches himself. For months he lived in a hole in the ground, inches from artillery fire, earning back respect. He wrote to Clementine constantly, once calling a small periscope the most important object in the war. A government inquiry eventually cleared him of the worst blame. And slowly, his career began recovering. He held nearly every major office in Britain: munitions, war, the air ministry, the colonies. He survived a car crash in the desert, was thrown from a horse, and nearly drowned once. He seemed to collect near-death experiences the way other men collected stamps or old coins. In 1922, disaster struck again. He lost his cabinet post and his seat in the same week. That same week, he had emergency surgery. He joked he was left without office, seat, or appendix. For 2 years, he was a private citizen and built a countryside home with his own hands. In 1924, he rejoined his old party and won back his seat, despite switching sides twice. The press mocked him. He simply said any man can rat, but it takes skill to re-rat. Somewhere in these years, something else took root in him. He called it his black dog. For weeks at a time, the color drained out of everything. He couldn't work, sleep, or feel. He avoided train platforms and the edges of ships, afraid of one dark, impulsive second. Clementine understood the darkness better than anyone. She would quietly clear his schedule and simply wait. And then, just as suddenly, it would lift, the colors flooding back like a painting waking up. He found one thing that kept the dog quiet. A paintbrush, picked up for the first time. Over 50 years, he painted more than 500 canvases. Almost no one ever saw them. He also found comfort building walls and ponds by hand, the only work that quieted his mind. In his 50s, he clashed with his own party over India and was pushed from government entirely. For nearly a decade, the most talked about man in Britain became almost completely irrelevant. He watched a new threat rise in Europe and tried to warn people. Almost nobody listened. For 10 years, he was mocked as a washed-up warmonger. He kept writing and speaking anyway. He wrote constantly just to earn a living, joking he lived, quote, from mouth to hand. He later called this humiliating decade a gift. It freed him from owing anyone loyalty. In 1940, everything he'd warned about came true. Suddenly, only one man could lead Britain through it. He was 65 years old. Most men his age were retiring. He was just getting started. He worked in a one-piece jumpsuit he designed himself, dictating letters from bed until noon. His staff learned his strange schedule, sleeping in short bursts, working through the night constantly. He was famously unbothered by nudity, often walking his own halls after a bath, uncovered. When bombs fell on London, night after night, he climbed to rooftops to watch the city burn. His speeches were medicine for a terrified nation. Blood, toil, tears, and sweat, spoken honestly. Families across the country gathered around their radios in candlelit kitchens just to hear his voice. He needed a partner across the ocean and found one in the American president himself. They exchanged over 1,700 letters and telegrams, among history's most important private correspondence. He crossed the dangerous Atlantic more than a dozen times, risking submarines to meet him in person. Their friendship was real, but never equal. The American president grew closer to the Soviet leader instead. His own daughter later said her father had become, quote, the odd man out. He sent Clementine to Russia to lead a wartime relief mission on his behalf. Returning through Moscow, she learned on the same day that Germany was surrendering and the president had died. Here's the part most people never learn. While saving his country, he devastated another one. Wartime shipping priorities he oversaw contributed to a famine in India that cost millions of lives. He's remembered as a hero by millions, and something far darker by millions of others. In 1945, the war ended. Church bells rang. Crowds packed the streets, screaming his name. 2 months later, voters removed him from office. No chance to lead the peace he'd won. He was heartbroken. His wife said it might be a blessing in disguise. He said it was well disguised. For the first time in years, he traveled simply to paint the French coast, the Swiss lakes. But the Black Dog never got the last word. He returned to power again at 76. He wrote history's most detailed account of the war and won the Nobel Prize for Literature. A young queen took the throne during his second term. They built a close, quiet friendship. In his final years in office, a stroke nearly ended everything. His staff hid it from the public. He recovered enough to finish his term on his own terms, finally stepping down at 80. He kept working past 90, kept painting, kept talking, kept refusing to let the darkness win. When he died in January 1965, it was one of history's largest gatherings of world leaders. Dock workers who never met him lowered their cranes along the Thames in silent salute. He once said history would be kind to him because he intended to write it himself. But maybe the truest thing he ever said was smaller. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. He was never fearless. He was something rarer. He was afraid every single day, and he showed up anyway.